Hello everybody, it's time to take another updated look at the voter registration shifts for the month of January. And as always, this is not my own data, this is from Michael Prusser. It's all on his Twitter/X. He's associated with Decision Desk, and we're going to trust that he's got the right numbers. So I think we've got about 18 states on here. And there's the usual caveats of some states have automatic voter registration that can skew some of these numbers, especially with the independent or other category. Plus some states report their data at different times, way more or way less often than other states, and some states also clean up their voter rolls at different times. So let's try to go quickly through here. We're going to start in Pennsylvania, and we've got the 2024 margin here. It was Trump 1.7%, and the total active party registration is about 8.48 million. It's going to be 3,500,000 Republicans, 3,600,000 Democrats, and 1,300,000 other. Now the changes from December, we've got the Republicans gaining over 11,000. The Democrats actually went down 2,600. Other is going to be up over 10K. So right off the bat, that looks phenomenal for the Republicans. This is a key swing state, and Democrats are clearly going in the wrong direction. But as I say in every video, there's also going to be a lot of legacy Democrats in a bunch of different states. Those are voters that are more ancestrally Democrat, but they've been voting Republican maybe for a long time now, but they haven't bothered to change their party registration. So usually the Democrats are on the decline over time. So the current party advantage here is going to be Democrats ahead 118,000. Sounds like a lot, but just a little bit ago it was 286,000. And at the end of 22 it was 549,000. At the end of 2020 it was 685,000. So you can see that is a precipitous decline for the Dems. If that at all continues, it's actually going to be Republicans that end up having the party registration advantage. So this might be the most important battleground state, as it has a lot of electoral votes. It's looking good for the Republicans, but you can't count out the Democrats. They've also had success in this state as well. Let's go to the next state. We've got New Jersey, and Harris won it by under 6%, which is still a pretty staggering number. And since December, Republicans have gone up 6,700. Dems have gone up about 6,000 less than that. They're only at 738. Other, though, is at up over 5,000. Dems have a massive advantage here. It's just under 900,000. But at the end of 24, they were at just over 900,000. At the end of 22, they were at 1,068,000. And 2 years before that, in 2020, they were at 1,079,000. So this is another trend here toward the Republicans, but it's not as dramatic as Pennsylvania. Some people think the state might be headed towards swing state territory. So we'll have to see if these numbers continue, if they pick up, or if they slow down. Next, we've got Nevada. We know Trump won the state by an impressive 3%. And since December, Republicans are up over 1,600. Dems actually went down by 20. Other is up the most at 6,700. The Dems do have an advantage here, but it's a measly 4,100. 4 years ago, they had a much bigger 86,000. So the party registration here is about even, but Other clearly leads both. So it's another state where the Dems continue to be on the decline. Next, it's North Carolina. Trump wins the state by 3.2. From December, Republicans gain at 6,800. Dems only up 500. Other, 9,400. Even though the state leans red, again, there's a lot of legacy Democrats here, and they have the party registration advantage at 90,000. That's down from 105 at the book closing in 2024, and it's way down from 391,000 in 2020. That's a competitive state, but again, Dems losing a lot of ground here on the party registration advantage, and that's going to be one where Republicans could flip it and have the advantage in the future. Next state, Florida. The once pinnacle swing state was won by Trump with over 13%. Since December, Republicans up huge, 8,700. Dems actually dropped off 10,800, and Other is up only 561. That is a massive drop off here for the Dems. They're going in the exact opposite direction they need to, and this is also a very populated state. So now we're kind of used to the Republicans having a massive advantage here. Now it's at 1.15 million. But if you go back to 2020, Dems had the advantage of 134,000. So in just 4 years, the Republicans completely wiped out that advantage and really stepped on the gas full speed. Next, we've got another state that used to be in the swing state category. It's Iowa. Trump won it here by a similar margin as Florida, 13.2. Since December, Republicans up 16,000, Democrats about 15. That's a big increase for both parties. Other, though, has the most at over 32K. Republicans have the advantage of 191,000. And if you compare that to the last few years, that's steadily increased. Back in November 2020, they only had a 20,590 vote advantage. advantage. Maybe this state eventually becomes purple again, but for the time being, it looks like a moderately dark shade of red. Next state, Alaska. And Trump here won the state also by a very similar margin, just over 13%. Not a ton of population here, but Republicans gained 745, Dems up just 41. Other is at 564. The GOP has an advantage here of 74,000. That's not completely dissimilar from their advantage of 67,000 back in November of 2020. And if you look at this total party registration, it's clear that Other has by far the most. There's a good chunk of independents here, but other than that, Republicans do have a decisive advantage. Next, South Dakota, super red state, Trump winning it by over 29. Republicans up 814, Dems dropped off 41. The advantage for the GOP is 173,000. You can see that's a steady increase from November of 2020, where they had the advantage of 118,900. Not much to say here. Very red state, not going to change anytime soon. Next, Idaho, another very red state, even redder, 36.5 for Trump. Decent amount of migration into this state, and Republicans have gained 16,500, Dems 2,700, Other 8,600. Advantage for the Republicans is now over 528,000. 4 years ago, it was at about 390,000. So if you thought this state was as red as it's going to get, it looks like that's not the case. It's getting even redder. How about a blue state, Delaware? Harris won it here by under 15 points. Now here we've got the Republicans dropping off 149, but the Dems lost even more, 609. Other gained over 2,600. Here Democrats have an advantage of 144,000. That's very similar to November of 2020, where they were up 147,000. So not really a whole lot of movement here. Maybe they cleaned up their voter rolls a little bit, and after that Dems did drop off, but overall not a whole lot shifting here. Dems still have the clear advantage. Next, Louisiana, Trump won it by 22, and again it looks like the voter rolls have been cleaned up here. Republicans dropped a ton here, 20,000, but not to be outdone, Democrats dropped a ton more, 35,000. Even Other was down 30K. So the advantage here for the Dems is at 55,000. That is dwindling from the 249,000 at the end of 2020. So it would seem like maybe this year or next year, Republicans are going to take the lead for the advantage in the registration here. But for now, still a lot of legacy Democrats. About New Mexico, an even 6% win here for Harris. GOP gaining 2,300. Dems dropping off 200. Other is up 1,100. Dems have a clear advantage here. It's 143K. That is a little bit lower than November of 2020, where they were up 185K. That 6% is almost a comfortable win for Harris, but Republicans hoping to pick up on some momentum there and put that down under 5 points next time. Will it happen? Maybe, maybe not. We're going to find out. Next state, we've got Maine, and this state is bluer than New Mexico. Harris won it by just under 7. Now this state is reporting their numbers less frequently, so we've got to go back to July. Republicans gained over 26,000 here. Dems at about 16K. Other is at just under 40K. So Dems have an advantage here of about 46,800. That is a little bit lower than back in 2020, where they were up 83K. So another mild to moderate blue state. Also a lot of independents and unaffiliated voters. But with the two parties, Republicans clearly gained. Next, Oklahoma, red state. Trump winning it by 34. The GOP gained 2,800. Dems actually dropped off over 1,000. The advantage for the Republicans here is 639,000. That is a lot higher than in 2020, where they were up only 389,000. So there's no mystery here. This is a super red state, and that's pretty much it. Next, Colorado. Harris here just barely under 11%, 10.99. Republicans actually gained here almost 1,200. Dems dropped off 3,800. Other is up 16,600. The Dems have an advantage here of 103,000. That's very similar to November of 2020, where they were at just over 100K. So has this state gotten as blue as it's going to get, and maybe it's turned a corner? Or maybe this year was just a speed bump and it's going to get a whole lot bluer in the future? We'll find out. Next, Nebraska. Here, Trump winning it by over 20%. Republicans gained 4,800. Dems only about 10% of that, 416. Other up 1,200. GOP advantage here, 290,000. That is higher from November of 2020, where they were up 236,000. This state could become a little bit more competitive in the future, but I think that's going to be more of a decade plus type of situation. For the immediate future, this state is just very, very red. Next, Kentucky. Trump here cracked a 30-point margin in his win, and the Republicans gained 5,200. Dems dropped off almost 3,000. Again, a lot of legacy Democrats here. And the advantage for the GOP is 174,000. But if you go back 4 years, it was the Dems that had the advantage of over 103,000. It's a great example of a state that has been voting Republican for a long time, but the party registration finally just flipped within the last 4 years. In West Virginia, it's extremely red. Trump won it by almost 42 points. Republicans continue to make gains here. They're up almost 2,300. Dems continue to drop off over 500. The GOP advantage here is 149,800. If you go back 4 years ago, Dems had the advantage of 8,500. It's another example of how the party registration advantage can lag way behind the overall election results. Next, we've got Rhode Island. Here, Harris won this state by 13.8, and both parties gained since December. Republicans up 4,000, Dems up 3,000. The big winner here is Other, up over 10,600. The Dem advantage here is 168,000. That's a little bit lower than November of 2020, where they were up 222K. The Republicans have very little party registration in this state, only 109,000. That's way less than half of the Dems, 277,000. But both of them are again dwarfed by the others that are at 364,000. The next state is Kansas, and we've got Trump winning it by 16.1. Republicans gained a little bit here, 800, but Dems dropped off a lot, over 3,400. Even Other went down to 1,600, and Republicans have a decisive advantage here, over 400,000. That's up from 360,000 4 years ago. And finally, the last state is going to be Oregon, and this one just missed my last video about a month ago, so this data is just actually from back in November. Harris did win the state by over 14, and the Republicans did drop off 3,900. Dems dropped off a lot more than that, 11,000. Other even dropped off 21,000. Dems have an advantage here. It's big. It's 268,000. It's a little bit lower than 297,000 back in 2020. At one point 25 years ago, this was actually a competitive state, but ever since then, it's been reliably blue. So I think that's a pretty good mix of states. Obviously, it's not every state we'd like to take a look at. I think it'd be nice to take a look at Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Virginia, New York, Texas. But if the data comes out, I'll be sure to include it in the next video. For now, based on this, it again looks like all the data is pointing in the direction of the Republicans. Even though a lot of it is just the voter rolls being cleaned up, that doesn't explain everything, just like the ancestral Democrats would not explain everything. There does seem to be some sort of movement actually toward the Republicans. Now, party registration does not tell you who's going to vote for who, but if you look at all these states, there's no way you would want to see these numbers if you're a Democrat. It just looks like your registration is either going up way less than the Republicans, or in a lot of cases, it's actually on the decline. That could change under Trump. Democrats could become more motivated again and start registering with the party. It still doesn't mean they're going to turn out, but it is going to be something to take a look at as we get into the new administration. We'll see if anything starts changing. But for now, this is going to be it for the January update, so let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of the data in any of these states? Are the Republicans dominating as much as it seems, or is there a little bit more to it? Which state surprised you the most? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.